Hello everybody, I'm Bev Lewis. I'm recording for week 7, group 3. So, first question, what could you tell us about the quality and utility of Shin et al. 1998 article from the first page? I could get a general idea about the purpose, the methods, and a little bit about the findings of the subject matter by reading the abstract. I can see that the article is published in the American Journal of Public Health, volume 88, issue 11, which usually refers to the month of the publication. I can see that the journal is lengthy because the page number is listed as 1651. The year published was 1998, and this tells me the subject matter may not be current enough for my needs because the subject matter is on homelessness. And the title says Predictors of Homelessness Among Families in New York City from Shelter Quest to Housing Stability. The title indicates that the subject matter most likely would have changed quite a bit. So it would depend on the relevance of what I was writing about or what I was looking for, whether it would be an appropriate article to cite. I also see a full list of names and a rudimentary educational background of the authors. This also gives me an idea where I might look for other articles written by these authors, and what schools or journals to look at. The question for this week for group 3, according to the video lecture, how does the application of the ecological circles help us to do better research and action? The application of ecological circles makes it possible to holistically witness and measure the ecological community of the targeted research and possibly get a clearer idea of what might result. Applying these levels as methodologically helps a researcher get his or her mind around the bigger picture of a given project, the long-term and wide-range results that might occur, and in this way it makes it possible to get an idea of what it might take to approach research ecologically. In other words, it is a method to help us not make horrendously destructive mistakes such as those that were made with the use of DDT. So how would I apply my own interests? Well, if I utilize this tool for designing how to go about doing critical research or constructing a course of action, it makes it possible to narrow my focus into something that is doable. For example, I break down first into 3 sections: input, process, and impact, or in other words, the how of who, what, and why. For instance, to broadly define my area of interest is human communities. I'm interested in the numerous ways that human beings define community and how these are maintained and how groups of people work together to achieve the goals of a defined community. In my first position paper, I discussed how ecological sustainability is possible in human communities when all the individual components make a concerted effort toward that goal. These components are described as, this week we learn, as various levels, and they overlapped and they intersect and interact. And I'm going to talk about the video that I used in when I wrote my paper. It's called How Cuba Survived Peak Oil, because in this example there's a very straightforward way to define the ecological levels as they pertain to my area of interest, and in so doing hopefully you all will understand what the video is about. In an overview, the Soviet Union fell in the early 90s, and they could no longer export oil to Cuba as they had been doing since the 1950s, Cuba had become dependent on the imported foreign oil and used it manufacturing practices much like what we use now in the U.S. But when they could no longer get imported oil, the people quickly started to feel that squeeze, and this is how it played out in the ecological levels. Well, first, as the demo system, they lost access to foreign oil, and every individual person, pet, plant, job, business, every function was influenced, just as it would be in any system. People couldn't manufacture food the way they had been doing, and they couldn't drive, they couldn't heat their houses, they couldn't work their plumbing, their lights, and people started to not have enough to eat. And so we moved to the microsystems here. We have families and neighborhoods, and what they started to do was they started planting gardens everywhere. Anywhere there was a patch of land, they planted seeds and turned everything into a vegetable garden. And so we moved to the mesosystem with limited power. There just wasn't any electricity, there wasn't plumbing, there was no way to get to work. So people started working together, started carpooling, started walking, they started doing all sorts of things to work together. And the exosystem comes next, formally being this big structure or society dependent on foreign oil. The government imported millions of bicycles to assist the people to get to work. And as a result, people started getting healthier and eating fresher foods, getting more exercise. The total health of the entire country began to improve. So as a result, we have the macro system, or the international community, which benefits from Cuba's experience in developing sustainable organic farming practices and sharing it with other places like Europe and other places in Latin America. They also developed other forms of renewable energy and broke free of that dependence on oil. So then we move into the geosystem, or the world, and what we have is a model for change that can happen through collective collaboration and action that one small country in the Caribbean was able to actually pull it off. Yeah, they suffered, and if the world could benefit from learning and not have to suffer in the same way. So what we have our input, our process, and our impact. In the process, the networks of power that act upon building or developing sustainable ecological communities is pretty much everything and everyone, from you and me to government systems. At every level described here, demo, micro, meso, exo, macro, and geo, there's some network of power that influences the possibility of success or failure for enterprises such as this. I think it's significant that this example of the people of Cuba provide what they managed to accomplish by working together on all ecological levels. Now, how I fit into this web is I'm just one interested individual sharing information, and in so doing, the likelihood of facilitating research and implementing action is strengthened through the sharing of information. So as we can see with the example of Cuba, the people interviewed, if you watch the video, they told us it was a lot of hard work and everyone had to sacrifice. At every ecological level, people had to sacrifice. They lost weight, but over time they got healthier. And what they have now, and they're very proud of it, is they have a a sustainable system that works with nature rather than against it.